Hey guys, this is James from TeaDB bringing you another Inbetweenisode. So today is another solo drinking Inbetweenisode. I am actually bringing on a tea that I've brought on before. It's a tea that I drink, fairly regularly. So it's a tea that's in my regular diet. I had requests for people that wanted to see some Pu'erhs that didn't exist exactly in the same range as everything else. I was giving a lot of teas a very similar rating. This one is a little bit better, in my opinion, than some of the other teas I've had on. This is a semi-aged raw pu'erh, and of course, it is the Yangqing Hao Jincha. I brought a lot of these teas onto the show already. This one's, maybe 3 years since I brought it on originally, so it's been a long time. I actually got introduced to this tea all the way back in 2014. I've had this tool in my own storage since 2015. So they're teas that I've had around quite a while for someone that's been drinking for maybe 5 years. This is still my first tool, so not a prolific drinker. This is not a tea that I would drink with my wife, mainly because it's a raw pu'erh, so I consume it a little bit more slowly. I have a bunch more of these stashed away, so it's a tea that I bought in at least some quantity. This is the Yangqing Hao Jincha, and I am on steep 4 and 5 right here. I had the 3 a couple hours ago. Still strong aroma, fruity, pretty rich, sort of got that rich, really overripe fruit aroma right now. Cheers, guys. Well, that almost was much worse than it looked. Very soft, very smooth. The body is moderate. It's fairly oily, I'd say. I'd say it fits pretty squarely. It's somewhat similar to the Qizhong, if you guys have had that from the same year, produced by Yang. This tea is also notable because it comes in this shape. This is also a larger jincha, which is the mushroom shape. It comes in at 300 grams, so it's pretty big. Takes a bit to go through. I would say that my least favorite part of this tea is the shape and the compression of it. It's really compressed, so it's kind of a beast to take down. But because it's a little bit smaller than Yang's cakes, which tend to run on the higher end, these are not 200-gram cakes we're talking about. His cakes are often 500 grams and sometimes 400 grams. The price tag of this is a really nice entryway into YQH, and I think as the prices of tea produced in the current year, so we're in 2018 now, it's just gone up and up almost every year. You could argue about 2015, that was kind of an outlier year, but tea prices have just continued to rise every year, and this tea has really held steady. It sells for $80 for 300 grams right now from a good, accessible source in Emmett. And as teas rise for these new young teas, I think teas like this look better and better and better in comparison. I did a number of price comparisons last year of young teas, and those come in anywhere from 30 cents a gram to 35 cents a gram. For your sort of average or your medium. I did some price adjustments depending on the vendors. This tea sells for 27 cents a gram. I think it is well above the median production of material, plus its age. So for me, it's really no question as to what is a better value, this or a young tea. It's got some darker Yiwu characteristics. Originally, when I had this tea, I think it was fresher out of storage. It had even more dark, sweet characteristics, more leathery. Still a little bit of leather in this, but it's not as intense as it originally was. I think that's partly just airing out from young storage. Steep number 5. Cheers, guys. Okay, I brewed this one a little bit longer. You can taste, it's not quite as soft, it's a little bit thicker. You can taste some of that rawness still. Firmly in the semi-aged category. Some people are bigger fans of Yang storage than not. I tend to be a little bit more up on Yang storage. I think it's pretty solid. It's definitely not totally dry stored as you would get from other vendors' storage. Definitely on the natural end of Tainan, which is a pretty humid place. Definitely also not on your Hong Kong, your stereotypical Hong Kong traditional storage end either. Dark, a little bit more of those leathery, maybe dark plum notes, fruit coming into here. The aroma really indicates that we're really just still getting into the tea. It kind of reminds me a lot of just walking around Taiwan and smelling some of the humidity in the air. Sometimes you'll pass tea shops and they'll have this really strong scent, especially if it's like a particularly humid day. You can pass just like any Pu'erh shop and you can just smell the tea wafting from all of that tea. It's on the sweet end. There's a little bit of astringency there. It's pretty quick to convert to sweetness. It has pretty good depth sort of in the back of the mouth. I think it tastes, like a Mong La County tea. Young is a little bit cagey about where exactly his material comes from. It's probably a blend of, decent production size for a boutique producer from sort of the 6 famous mountain range. It had some perfumey notes earlier. I'd say it's a pretty balanced tea. It's very likable. I think there's a tendency to look over this tea just because it is the cheapest tea that Yang sells. But I'm here to tell you that the lowest end of YQH is pretty good. I think they're good teas. I think they're good values. It's where I own the most of. I'm certainly not out there buying those big 500-gram cakes by the tong or anything like that. So at 27 cents a gram, I highly recommend people do the math in terms of just like cents per gram. So this session I'm using a little bit over 6 grams. So this session is costing me something like $1.60, $1.70. I think that's an exceedingly reasonable price. I've heard some people even grandpa styling this. It's a little bit, I think if you were to do it that way, you'd need to make sure you're not getting too much of these bits. It's kind of inevitable that you're going to get some broken crumbs and stuff like that for a tea compressed like this. And this is also the tea that I really recommend people that are interested in YQH check out. I don't think there's any need to jump straight into the fancier YQH teas. There's a lot of the fancier YQH teas. There's only a few that come in at this range. I think this is a really decent tea. I am giving it a rating of 6.9. So that's a rating that it has a special something, a positive attribute that stands out and impresses. I don't know if it has like a singular positive attribute that really stands out. I just think it's really solid. I think it's well balanced. I think it tastes like a proper raw pu'erh. I think it tastes like a decent, good, dark Yiwu. I think the Huigon's good. I think the longevity's pretty good. It's not outstanding in anything, but it's pretty good. It doesn't quite get to the point where I would call it like a great holistic success, which is the next rating up. But I think it is very solid. I think maybe also it suffers a little bit in comparison to some of the more expensive teas. But again, I think you just got to look at what this tea costs and look at the price, and I think most everyone is going to be very pleased. I think it does very well. The price used to sell for more from Western vendors, and Emmett is currently selling it for $80. So I really do highly recommend it at that price. Emmett, he's a reliable guy, and he's doing people a service by importing these teas from Taiwan and selling them here in the West. So, I think that just about concludes this review. I'll be drinking this tea throughout the day. Cheers, guys.